Amara remembered the day her mother died, the funeral draped in white, as was their custom in her West African village. She was only 10 then, clutching her father's hand as they lowered her mother into the red earth. Her father, Kofi, a respected teacher in their community, had been devastated. For months, their house felt hollow, conversations echoing against empty walls. When Kofi introduced Madame Fatima as his new wife a year later, Amara tried to be hopeful. "She will help care for our home," her father explained, his eyes pleading for understanding. "And for you, when I am teaching." At first, Fatima smiled warmly in Kofi's presence. She prepared elaborate meals and spoke in a honeyed voice about building their family together. Amara wanted to believe her, desperately clinging to the possibility of maternal love returning to her life. But as weeks passed, Fatima's true nature emerged, but only when Kofi was absent. The transformation was frightening. Her stepmother's face hardened the moment the door closed behind him. "You," she would say, pointing a long finger at Amara, "are not my responsibility." Soon, Amara's days became filled with endless chores. While neighborhood children walked to school in their pressed uniforms, Amara scrubbed floors until her knuckles bled. When she finished one task, 3 more appeared. "Your father works hard," Fatima would say. "The least you can do is earn your keep." At night, Amara would curl into her thin mattress in the storage room where she now slept, stomach growling from the meager portions Fatima allowed her. The meals her father thought they shared together were actually eaten by Amara alone, hours earlier, plain cassava while Fatima saved the fish and meat for herself and Kofi. Worst of all, Fatima convinced Kofi that Amara was acting out and needed firm discipline. So even when he was home, he became distant, believing his daughter was becoming difficult during her adolescent years. Amara learned to keep her tears silent, wondering if she would ever feel safe in her own home again. For 3 years, Amara lived 2 entirely different lives. When her father was home, she was a quiet, obedient daughter who Fatima claimed was still adjusting to their blended family. In his absence, she was Fatima's servant, forbidden from attending school regularly despite her father's belief that she received an education. "School is a waste for girls like you," Fatima would say, snatching away Amara's textbooks. "Your father is too soft-hearted to see it." Amara, now 13, had grown taller but thinner. Her once bright school uniform hung in the back of her closet, unworn for months. On the rare occasions when her father questioned her academic progress, Fatima interjected with fabricated stories about Amara's supposed behavioral problems at school. "The teachers say she doesn't apply herself," Fatima would explain with a performative sigh. "I've spoken with them many times." Kofi, exhausted from long days teaching mathematics at the regional secondary school, had no reason to doubt his wife. After all, Fatima presented herself as a concerned stepmother trying her best with a difficult teenager. The neighbors suspected something wasn't right. Mrs. Okafor next door once caught Amara washing clothes at the communal tap at dawn, her arms covered in suspicious bruises. When questioned, Amara's rehearsed answer came quickly: "I fell while playing." Fatima had made the consequences of telling the truth perfectly clear. "Your father will send you away to your mother's village relatives if you cause problems," she threatened. "They barely have enough to feed themselves." Fear of being separated from her father, her only remaining connection to her mother, kept Amara silent. She clung to memories of her earlier childhood, when her father would help with her homework and tell stories about her mother's bravery and kindness. At night, Amara would sometimes hear her father in his study, grading papers and sighing heavily. She wondered if somewhere deep down, he sensed the truth about their fractured household. The rainy season arrived with thunderous force, turning dirt roads into muddy rivers and keeping everyone indoors more than usual. The increased confinement only worsened Amara's situation. With nowhere to escape, even briefly, Fatima's cruelty intensified. One particularly stormy afternoon, Amara accidentally broke a clay pot while rushing to finish her chores. The vessel, an heirloom from Fatima's family, shattered against the concrete floor, pieces scattering like fallen stars. Fatima's rage erupted instantly. "Worthless, clumsy girl," she screamed, grabbing Amara by her braids. "That pot was from my grandmother." The punishment was swift and harsh. No food for 2 days. Extra chores. And worst of all, Fatima destroyed the only photograph Amara had of her mother, tearing it to pieces before her eyes. Perhaps now you'll learn to be careful with things that matter, Fatima said coldly. That night, huddled on her thin mattress, Amara made a decision. Tomorrow, when her father left for the teachers' conference in the city, she would run away. Her mother's cousin lived in a village 20 kilometers away. Perhaps she could find refuge there. But morning brought unexpected news. The conference had been cancelled due to flooded roads. Kofi would be home all week. I'll catch up on my lesson planning, he announced at breakfast, oblivious to the silent tension between his wife and daughter. Fatima's eyes narrowed, her plans for the week clearly disrupted. She had promised friends she would host a gathering, one where Amara would serve them while being treated as little more than furniture. But darling, Fatima protested sweetly, I thought we would have the house to ourselves this week. Kofi smiled apologetically. The conference will be rescheduled. For now, I'm home. Amara felt temporary relief, but also growing dread. How long before Fatima found a way to punish her, even with her father present? The following day began like any other when Kofi was home. Fatima played the role of devoted wife and stepmother, serving a special breakfast and speaking kindly to Amara, all for Kofi's benefit. Amara responded with practiced gratitude, the performance familiar to both females in the household. I need to meet with the headmaster briefly this morning, Kofi announced, gathering his papers. I should be home for lunch. The moment his car disappeared down the road, Fatima's demeanor transformed. Wash these dishes immediately, then clean the guest room, she ordered. My sister is visiting next week, and everything must be perfect. Amara worked quickly, hoping to avoid confrontation. But nothing satisfied Fatima today. Each completed task was met with criticism and demands for it to be redone. By mid-morning, Fatima's displeasure reached its peak when she discovered Amara had been hiding a small notebook where she wrote stories and poems, her only escape from her harsh reality. So this is why your chores are never done properly. Fatima snatched the notebook. You waste time with this nonsense instead of being useful. What happened next would change everything. As Fatima tore pages from the notebook, something in Amara broke. Years of suppressed feelings erupted. Stop it, she cried out. That's mine. My mother taught me to write stories. Fatima's hand struck Amara's face with shocking force, sending her stumbling backward. Your mother is dead, she hissed, and you'll join her if you ever speak to me that way again. Neither of them heard the front door open. Neither noticed Kofi standing in the doorway, his meeting finished early due to a power outage at the school. What he witnessed froze him in place, his wife's hand raised for another blow, his daughter cowering against the wall, tears streaming down her face, a torn notebook scattered across the floor. Fatima, his voice was barely audible at first, then gained strength. What is happening in my house? The silence that followed Kofi's question seemed to stretch for eternity. Fatima recovered first, her face transforming instantly from rage to concern. Kofi. You're home early, she exclaimed, lowering her hand. Amara was being disrespectful again. I was simply disciplining her. But something had fundamentally changed in Kofi. The scene before him connected with hundreds of small observations he had dismissed over the years, Amara's increasing quietness, her diminishing spark, unexplained absences from school, the neighbors' concerned glances. Amara, he said gently, please wait for me in my study. When his daughter had left, Kofi turned to his wife. Their conversation was brief but decisive. By evening, Fatima had packed her belongings and departed for her sister's home in the city. The marriage was over. In his study, Kofi listened, really listened, as Amara revealed everything, the years of mistreatment, the stolen education, the hunger and isolation, all hidden beneath a veneer of family normalcy. I failed you, Kofi whispered, tears streaming down his weathered face. I was blind because I didn't want to be alone after your mother died. Can you ever forgive me? The path to healing wasn't immediate or easy. Trust, once broken, requires patience to rebuild. But that evening marked a beginning. In the months that followed, father and daughter created new routines together. Amara returned to school full-time, quickly advancing despite the gaps in her education. Kofi adjusted his teaching schedule to be more present at home. They honored Amara's mother's memory by planting her favorite flowers in the garden. On Amara's 14th birthday, Kofi presented her with a leather-bound journal. "Your mother always believed you would become a storyteller," he said. "Perhaps now you can write your own story, one with a different ending than the past." As twilight settled over their home, Amara sat on the porch writing while her father prepared dinner, a reversal of roles that symbolized their new beginning. The wounds of betrayal would take time to heal completely, but sitting there in the growing darkness, Amara felt something that had been absent for years, the quiet certainty of being truly safe at home.